Welcome to another video. Now, I've been really looking forward to bringing this video to you today. Now, if you don't know me already, my name is Claire. I call myself Claire Who Makes Things, and I have two series of videos on YouTube, one called the Stitch Diaries and one called the Doll Diaries. The Stitch Diaries is where I share the things that I sew, knit and crochet and other crafts that I do. Sewing, I kind of do dressmaking and toys and homeware, that kind of thing. And my doll diaries is the dolls that I buy, the dolls that I make things for and things like that. So the sort of dolls that I have are Harry Potter dolls, Barbie, Blythe, and now wooden dolls. So yeah, and maybe more to come. Who knows? Yeah, and fabric ones that I make as well. So anyway, today is my wooden doll video, and I think some of my viewers from either genre of, if you watch the Doll Diaries or the Stitch Diaries, you might be interested in these, because there's modern items and there's vintage items. So anyway, let's get started. So how I got interested in wooden dolls is I was looking on Instagram and I kept on seeing the odd wooden doll on people's posts, mainly sewers that I follow on Instagram. Now, I tried to find all the ones that were the inspiration, and I found one of them, and one of them is an Instagram called Obby Dobby. So I'll put her Instagram name on here, and her name's Robin. Now, I saw her doll. Now I might have to ask permission if she minds if I share the picture of her doll, but she shared this picture of this wooden doll. Now, it's only partly painted from what I can see. The body doesn't look painted, just the head. And I didn't know anything about this doll at the time, and it had like a knitted shawl on, and I'd commented on it saying that, I think I'd said that I loved her, and I was wearing the same headpiece on because I wear this spotty thing when I'm getting ready in the morning, and she said that she'd been a bit slack getting her dressed, so that all she'd made is this shawl, and this wasn't the only wooden doll I saw, and then so I tried to find out where can I get my own wooden doll. Now, I ended up, now I have got this sort of doll now, but that's not the doll I bought initially. I found an antique store on Etsy, and basically I'd seen this other wooden doll called Polly Shorrock, and I was just smitten by this Polly Shorrock. It's a bit of a mouthful to say. And it's a doll that was made, and it was aimed at sewers. What I believe, it was in Massachusetts, America. Sorry if I'm not pronouncing that properly. And these dolls were released, and they would come with fabric, and you'd build the doll, you'd paint the doll, and you'd make clothes for it. Well, that is right up my street, isn't it? Anyway, I looked and looked, and I really struggled to find a Polly Shorrock, and I didn't know at the time there's two different sizes. Anyway, I found these ones, and these are actually the smaller version of the Polly Shorrock. And basically I was just smitten, and they had a box. I didn't know if it was original. It said the Swiss colony, and there was two dolls in it, and but they said they won't sell to the UK. But anyway, I messaged the seller saying, would you consider, because it came with patterns, because I didn't know what size these dolls were at the time, and I'd been dressing my wooden men, those drawing wooden men. I'll share a photograph of some of my wooden men, and basically I've been making clothes for those, and I didn't know if they'd fit, and I said, would you consider photocopying the scanning the patterns and emailing to me, and I will I'll pay her for her troubles. And she did say no. and then I said, what if I pay the postage and everything if you want to send them printed? She said no. So I was like, oh, okay. And then I was looking at these dolls, and I thought they were just too much for me. But then I looked, and you could buy them Klarna, and I asked her, would she consider selling them to me in the UK? And she said yes, but she will not be liable for any extra charges and arriving here. So I said okay. So I could pay on Klarna in 3 payments. So that's what I decided to do. So you had to pay 1 payment at the time. Then they took a while. They did get stuck in customs and I did have to pay, but that was before the second payment was due. So I've paid the first payment to the customs, then I got the dolls, then I've paid the second payment, so I've only got one payment to pay now. So that, and they'll be, you know, well, they're all mine anyway. But yes, but I'm going to show you the box that it came in. Now, I was a bit disappointed because it was squished. See, it's all squished. Now, I don't know if this box has got some history, so I was a bit disappointed. And something, now can you see all these stains? Now, on the packaging, it was wrapped in brown paper, no plastic, which are obviously good for the environment, but something in its travels spilt on it. And it's like has a smell. It's not a bad smell, but I can't make out what this smell is. But yeah, that was on it. Now, the dolls aren't in here now. I've taken them out, but maybe I'll show you some photographs of, you know, the seller's photographs and things like that. But this is what I've got in here at the moment. I've got the fabrics that came with it and the patterns, and I've put them in some plastic. So it came with all these fabrics. Now, these dolls are dated 1960. Now, it came with bits of sandpaper. There was a bit of paper inside it. It looks like a bit like a skirt or shorts pattern, but I left it in there anyway. The dolls came sellotaped to these. Now, look at the sellotape. The sellotape is yellow and it left marks on the dolls, which I've had to sand out. There was a piece of paper in it with some writing, and I can't quite read what it says. I'd have to, it says sew something hem all around and apply lace. Sew something thread, and I can't read the next few words. Yeah, I maybe need to get someone else to read it for me, but it's so tiny and joined up writing, it's really difficult to read it. Now, there are the patterns that came in it and the instructions. So that's my plastic that I'm using to keep them nice. Now, these are both the same. Oh, that's the other piece of card. That doesn't look quite as discoloured, does it? And you can see the discoloured sellotape on there. So here are the instructions and the patterns. And on here, it's got Alice M. Copythorne 1960 down here. So that's when these dolls were made. Now, I think there were some earlier ones, and I don't think they went on past 1970. I think they stopped being made. So these are quite rare items, and apparently I've found out it's quite rare to have these as well. So hopefully this might be a bit of investment in the future for my children. I get to enjoy them, and then it's something for them in the future. But yeah, here's another one. It's exactly the same, and there's patterns to make a petticoat. It says pantalettes, I'd say pantaloons, 2 pieces for a bonnet, a dress, and oh, that's the skirt. Oh, I totally forgot about that bit. You'll understand why I'm saying that in a moment. So the instructions are sandwiched in the skirt. So I'll pop those away. Now, so I don't think all these fabrics would have come with these dolls. I definitely know this would have, because I've seen somebody else on Instagram. I'll put her name, Mina Monkey. We're both into Blythe dolls. That's how we found each other. And I'll ask her if she minds me sharing her photograph as well. But if she says yes, it should be coming up here. And she's got some fabrics with hers, and it's a smaller wodge, isn't it? And it's got ribbon and things. So I think those are definitely the ones. But But whatever it is and what isn't, these are really old fabrics. So I've got these really old prints and things from, like, you know, 1960, which I think is pretty fabulous to have in my stash of fabrics, isn't it? So what would you do? Would you use them? Would you save them? It's a piece of history. Shall I document it and then use it? I suppose I'm documenting it now, aren't I? So yeah, I don't know. What's your advice, really? It depends if you... It's like with the Barbies, isn't it? If I left the Barbies in the boxes, they're going to be worth more money, but then I wouldn't get any enjoyment out of them. So yeah, it's one of those, isn't it? So anyway, my dolls. Now, I photocopied all the instructions and I've stuck the pattern pieces onto cereal boxes and cut them out. But then now I've realised I haven't got the skirt cut out because I forgot that the rectangle on the printout is the skirt. So basically this, I need to cut that out as well for the skirt piece. So yeah, so I'm going to leave that out anyway, because yeah, I'm going to do that. So here is my first Polly Shorrock. Now I have built her, but I've sanded the yellow off her, and you can see that there's a stamp on there, Polly Shorrock Rolling Maze. Now I did put a more detailed post about this on Instagram with more details, but yeah, I've yet to paint her, but this is her size. She's a little tiny thing. She's the small Polly Shorrock. But yeah, but this would be nice. So again, I could leave this plain. It'd probably be worth more money, I don't know. But yeah, I'd like to paint her face. So this is my first one. Now the other one is painted, which she's got such a sweet face. She's got painted hair. And look, look at that face. Isn't it gorgeous? I hope if I paint this one, I can do it some justice. And I just love the little heart. I think that was a thing that they did. And this one, it's been wrote on with pen. Polly Shorrock, Topsfield something. But yeah. They're just lovely, aren't they? Now I think if what you're meant to do is sand these feet down a bit more so they're smooth and things, and you paint their shoes on. Yeah, on the oh no, they look a bit boxy on the picture. Some instructions on painting. I think you paint white socks and little black shoes, and there is a mention of putting hair on. But I don't know if I want hair. I really like her like this with a painted head. And yeah, I'm going to make the clothes as well. So I'll probably use the same fabric. Now, I showed you this doll in my previous Stitch Diary video near the end. And this is my fabric doll I made. And I told you about the pattern and things. But I've still got some of this fabric that was given to me either by my nan, who's in her 90s, or my auntie, who is now deceased. So yeah, it's a bit sentimental. And yeah, I've got more of this. So I'll be able to make Polly. Look, I was expecting Polly to be as big as this, right? Because the designer of this doll said the dress pattern, which is a separate pattern to the doll, will fit Polly Shorrock, because she's got Polly Shorrock too. But no. They're not going to fit, because this is a miniature Polly Shorrock. But she's lovely. She'd look lovely in a little doll's house, wouldn't she? So, yeah, I'm super pleased with them. And obviously, I'm over the moon with this doll. Now, I did undress this doll in my Stitch Diary video. It was the part 2 of my Summer of Making Stitch Diaries. So I think more people have watched part 1 than have watched part 2. They probably don't realise I've put a part 2 on there, so I'm really sorry. So if you haven't seen part 2, please check it out, because Polly is in it. So well, no, I'm calling her Polly. She does look a bit Polly-like, doesn't she? Because I've painted her face and things. So yeah, my painting isn't too bad. Yeah, and I told you how I got the placement of it. I'll tell you again, I took photographs of my youngest son at the back and the sides and the front, and that's how I got my placements, to get everything in the right place rather than just winging it. So anyway, I'll pop my my doll there. I'll put the wooden dolls here. Now you might think I would love a wooden doll. Now, obviously these are a rare find, so if you find some, then well done. But there are modern day dolls you can get, and they're the Sophie Tilley designs. And there are other wooden dolls, vintage ones. There's Hitty doll, and there's lots of dolls. Basically, this is a new hobby of mine, the wooden dolls. So yeah, I'm still learning about it. So yeah, leave it with me, hopefully over time. So I will be bringing these back in a video. Maybe I'll bring them back in a Stitch Diaries because I'm going to be making clothes for them, basically. So yeah, that'd be nice. Maybe something similar looking to this. And there is a pattern for this doll to make a fabric shawl, but I'm thinking I'd like to make a knitted shawl. So yeah, and maybe for these dolls as well. Well, anyway, now Sophie Tilley Designs. I ordered a wooden doll from her, and it came on this lovely board, and the doll was tied on. But I didn't know when I bought her that I bought the last one, and then you could only buy doll blanks, which look like this, doll blanks. But I've warned her that I'm doing this video, and she's been busy painting, so hopefully by the time I get this video out, hopefully she'll have some more. So she's Sophie Tilley Designs. So if you're interested in having a painted, it's already painted, then have a look at her website. I don't know, obviously I haven't looked on there at the minute. Actually, I'll have a look on her website now. Right, I just stopped the video for a moment while I had a look. Yeah, at the moment, it says the doll that's already painted is out of stock. There's some cloth dolls that are in stock, and the doll blanks and the instruction sheets for painting are free. They're in there, but not any painted, but hopefully. But there is a contact me, so I think you could probably contact her. But I know she is busy painting at the moment, so yeah, she should have some more. Now she's a lovely artist. I really like her styling, and yeah, this is her kind of colour palette. Now I'll get the doll. And here she is. She's so lovely. Now, look at her feet. Hers are painted, look, black with little white socks. She's got a blue band. She's got her pants on, her knickers. She's got a little thing around she's painted that around, look. She's got a fabric head tie, which is so me, isn't it? Now I say it's so me, I make them for the Blythe dolls all the time, but I'm gonna make loads for me. I just love this style. And yeah, and she's totally painted, my dollies, look, her body's painted, and this is lovely. Now I could see there'd been some previous patterns to make clothes for this doll, and I wanted to know all about it. Oh, actually, she sits really nicely like that. I have seen Sophie standing them on their heads, so I think you can balance them like that as well. But they're so much fun, aren't they? And obviously this is a cheap, they're not really cheap, but they're cheaper than buying like the vintage dolls, and you're going to get a lovely doll. But anyway, I was tempted to just buy a blank and not buy a painted one, but I thought it'd be really nice to see like one painted in front of my eyes before I do my own. So this is how she came, tied on here like this, and she's just lovely, isn't she? So I'm going to be painting mine. So basically I ordered this first, and I did think, well, I won't order any blanks, because sometimes if you order from a seller you get a discount code, don't you, if you order again. Well, I didn't, but I ordered 2 blanks anyway. But Sophie kindly emailed me a dress pattern for this doll, which I'll show you. Should I put it on here? I don't want her falling down the back, actually. I don't think I'll risk it. Oh, I've got my cuppa here, my knitting mug. Do you know I broke my Barbie mug, you know? I was really sad about that. I've got numerous crafting mugs, but only one Barbie mug, and I broke the handle off it. Oh, Christine, look what I've got here. Christine bought me these lovely chicken coasters. They came in a lovely box. I think there was a set of 4. And yeah, I have this hen. I don't think it's a cockerel. No, I don't think so. Mind you, it's very fluffy tail. Might be a cockerel actually. Just yeah, it's hard to tell sometimes, isn't it, from a drawing? Yes, I've got one of them there, which is very handy. And one of my wooden men. See, my original wooden man in the jumper I knitted for him. So anyway, what was I saying? Sophie Tilley, that's what we was on. So oh yeah, she sent me some patterns, and I've got the freebies here as well. So you can download these 2 sheets from her website for free, even if you haven't ordered anything. And it's just telling you a bit about Sophie Tilley. She's been designing Tilley dolls for years and things. And this is just a guide on painting. Sorry about the glare, because obviously I've got the lights on in here. Does my hair look a bit yellow? my obviously I've been transitioning slowly over time, because I was having tint in my hair, brown tint, and it's been really hard to get it out, and there's still bits in it, and my hairdresser's been working away. But yeah, I look a bit yellow I think today, but my hairdresser's going to put a toner in it next time. My son's looking a bit yellow as well actually. I don't know what you do think. Anyway, so yeah, so she's got these are practice sheets, but I think it's really useful having the doll in front of you, isn't it, for painting them. Now the blanks came a bit lovely in lovely packaging as well, but this is what, before I ordered those, this is what Sophie emailed to me. Now I did have a bit of faff trying to print this out, so this sheet, but again I printed this out twice, and I've stuck it to cereal boxes. My family say, what do you do with all these cereal boxes? I'm like, never you mind. So there's only 3 pieces for this. Now I must admit, I'm a little bit reluctant to make this dress for this Tilley doll, right? Because I've had a look at the pattern, and what you do with this is you remove the arms. You have to undo these, remove the arms and fit those, and then this is a separate piece. And I don't really want to do that. Maybe I'll do that on one of the blanks, but yeah, I don't want to do it on this one, because I might want to change her clothes. I don't want them having to undo. Well, she's been made up already by Sophie, or I think her name is Sophie Tilley, so she's already been made up. I don't really want to be undoing that unless it came undone on its own. But anyway, here are the blanks, and they came in these little packages, which I'm going to recycle this paper. You could give these, look, they say 2. Now I must admit, I couldn't have enough of these. I think once I get going I'd love them, but these are £20 a pop, right? And then you've got to paint them and things. So, but yeah, I've got so many ideas. Now Sophie does things like she puts washi tape on them, she paints them, she does all kinds of things. And as that, I'm an arty sort of person, yeah, I want to experiment and do lots of things. So, but she does have, I've seen pictures on her blog where she's got these really wooden round face ones. I think she calls the fairies, but I've not seen those for sale on her website, but I'm really interested in those because I really like those round faces. But she put some cards in with my deliveries. Now I can't remember which ones come with which, but there's a picture of a fabric doll. It's like a postcard, it's blank on the back. So you can get those on our website right now. They're already made up. You don't make them yourself. Which is the crafter in me. I'd probably rather make it myself and have it a little cheaper. You know, get the printed fabric. This is a card with a receipt, my receipt in it. I won't turn it round because it's got my address on it, but it's got that round it. And look, maybe that's the dress. That's what the dress would look like made up, the one I've got the pattern for. I wonder if there's anything to see here. Just a table leg. I don't think there's any of that. And it says, "Dear Claire, thank you for your order, Sophie," and a kiss. And this is another one. Thanks for buying a Tilley, Sophie. There's that fabric doll. Now I wonder if Sophie had that fabric designed, because that looks the same as this packaging. See this apron, unless she used the paper as an apron. She's got a few layers on there. Yeah, sometimes Sophie puts washi tape around her body and like around her legs. Please excuse the state of my nails and my finger. Oh gosh. Yeah, you'll understand why I haven't really been doing much videos. I trapped my finger in a toilet door when my boys went back to college and things. I nipped into my town and did some grocery shopping. I went into the public toilet and I trapped my finger in the door. I shut my finger in it and it cut it this side, and it did bleed quite bad. I swirled it under the tap, but I didn't obviously treat it properly. Anyway, this side healed lovely. This side, it just wasn't getting, and it was getting more and more painful. I class myself as right-handed because I write with my right hand, but I was actually left-handed. When I started school, I wrote with my left hand, but I'm so old, basically. We used chalkboards. We had wooden desks with chalkboards underneath, and that's how we learnt to write. And I found all my writing was getting smudged, and I didn't like it. So I forced myself to write with my right hand, but I'm actually more left-handed. So I figure skate like a lefty, as you could say, because people that are right-handed and left-handed generally do their jumps and spins a certain way. Now I do mine like a left-handed person. I eat like a left-handed person. When it comes to doing things, I don't really mind, but I do find when the left hand's out of action, I do realise I open my front door with this finger on the latch, but it's getting really painful. And basically I didn't realise it was infected, and I'm not going to say it burst, basically, yes. So I ended up at the doctor's and I've got an antibiotic cream, so it's all dry. It's still a bit sore, but it's all dry now. So yeah, it hasn't been too much fun. And I couldn't really leave a plaster on either because I've been knitting. There's a bit of knitting here. I'm knitting those Nordic sweaters, and I'm nearly at the point I'm starting some colour work, and when I'm doing colour work I'll wrap one of the yarns over this finger and I'll have my other one here on this finger, and I work like this, and then I do this. I have like my knitting, it's kind of like half English, half Norwegian. I mix it up a little bit, but yeah, so I couldn't wear a plaster because I couldn't knit, and then I was obviously stabbing my finger, so no wonder it got infected really. My husband seemed to think I'd got a splinter in it, but maybe I have. So anyway, going off on one. So I want to do some reading because look at the chicken. I'm a chicken keeper. So yeah, this brings me much joy. I absolutely love this. This is a picture of Sophie Tilley wooden doll, and there's 3 chickens, and she's hanging her things on the washing line. This is just delightful. Now, when my craft room is renovated, I can see all these things going up. And yeah, just a little note she's put in there. Look, I just love the aesthetic of this designer. I think I've showed you those, unless I've got repeats of them. I don't know. So yeah, these are all the little cards and things I've got. And yeah, I'm going to do things. Now, I've seen she's made furniture, like a little cabinet for her dolls, using this paper as the main paper, and then putting washi tape around the edges, and it looks really good. So maybe that's something I will do as well. And now what happened is, oh gosh, I was so gutted. I went and killed a bit of time with my youngest son. We were doing the rounds, getting things for college. We killed a bit of time in McDonald's, having a breakfast while we were waiting for Paper Chase to open. And little did I know Paper Trace, am I saying that right, had gone into administration. I was really upset about it. I always get a voucher around my birthday. My birthday's coming up. I've got a voucher to spend, and I bought lots from there. I'm really disappointed. Well, anyway, I went to the information desk because I didn't know it had closed down. And has it moved? I said, no, it's closed down. And she recommended going to the Works bookshop, which I'm aware of the Works. Anyway, I went in there to buy washi tape. Now, I've been in there a couple of times since. Now, I am going to do a video showing you what I've bought in the Works bookshop in another video, maybe my next video actually. But I ended up buying some wooden boxes. Now, I bought 2 boxes. Now, I'll show you a picture of the boxes in the shop. I had to go back there to take this photo. That's what they look like in their natural state. Now, one of them, the bigger one, was £6 and the smaller one was £4. And I think this is the smaller one. Now, I primed it. I put a couple of layers of primer on actually, and then just one layer of paint on it. And I've painted the bottom and everything. And I've made these bases. Now, this base is actually foam board. Now, I make my own photo studio things for taking photos of dolls and things. But I use foam board, but it gets damaged very easy. I move it all. I can't leave it in one place. It gets damaged really easy. So when it gets a bit too battered, I craft with it and I make a new one, which I haven't made a new one yet. So I can't take too many photos. But I've used a piece of it. I've cut it with a Stanley knife. I've put some cotton wadding on it for, quilt wadding. And then I glued that on, hot glued it. Then I put this fabric on and I've wrapped it round and I've glued it underneath. So I've got this lovely base. Now I'm using this particular one for the wooden dolls. So yeah, and all the little bits and bobs, just somewhere to keep them and things. And yeah, I'm really, really delighted with this. Now, when I've painted a few wooden furniture things before, I haven't had much success. But I've used things like, acrylic paint and all sorts. But I used proper wood primer on it, and I used proper interior wood paint. And yeah, and it's really lovely. Maybe the acrylic would have been okay over top of the primer, but I think it's all about the sanding and the priming and things, and then you get a good result. So yeah, I'm going to bring you a video on all my finds in the Works bookshop. But now I'm going to go on to my vintage book. Now, this led somewhere else. And I got this really old book called Pearl and Plain. Now, I'm going to read the first story to you out of this. Now, if it's something you're not interested in, you can stop the video now if you want to, or forward it. If you want to comment on something, just forward it, a comment or whatever. But I thought you might be interested, because you might be as captivated about wooden dolls as me, maybe once you've read this. Not that I'm trying to tempt you or anything, but this is just such a lovely hobby that I've, come across through, my interest in dolls and things. And yeah, and this is lovely. Now, I managed to pick this up at not a crazy price. I have mentioned this in a previous video, and actually the one that was for sale on Amazon has gone. So I don't know if it was one of my viewers has, bought it. I'm not too sure. So anyway, I'm going to read this to you. And what I'll do is, when there are pictures on the page that I'm reading, I will put it up on the screen. Now, I am expecting my husband home soon. We're going into our local town because he needs to go to the bank, and I need to go to Claire Accessories because I am doing a cosplay. I've made my outfit. It's nearly, basically the whole outfit is made. I just need to do a bit of sewing on a hat and but I need some fabrics, and I need to either make or buy some earrings. So I'm just gonna have a look in Claire's accessories. So I'm gonna go with him. So anyway, I'm gonna read you this. So that's the front cover, and it's The Adventures of Pearl and Plain, told by Dawn L. Brisley. I got this book from a bookshop in Kenilworth. Wow, no, actually they've moved to Leamington, I think, actually. And this author also, these aren't very popular, actually. There's not as many of them. So that's probably why they're a bit more expensive. But this author also did the Millie, Molly and Mandy stories, which apparently are, you know, more popular. Now, let me have a look here. That's the first picture. You can see they're wooden dolls, look. And they've got different dresses on. But as I say, I'll put these photos. So the first chapter is The Adventure in the Garden. And they are very old. Let me try and find a date in here. It was first published in Great Britain in 1941. I'm guessing this might not be the first edition, because it says it was reprinted in 1941, 1942 and 1957. So if it says that, that would suggest that this is a later one, wouldn't it, really? Okay, I'll put the picture up that's on the front of here. Once upon a time, there were two little wooden dolls whose names were Pearl and Plain. Pearl wore a spotted dress and Plain wore a plaid one. Otherwise, you had to look at them very closely to tell them apart, and then you would notice that Pearl's blue painted eyes were a bit rounder than Plain's, and Plain's wooden nose poked out a little bit more than Pearl's. At first sight, the two little dolls seemed as if they might be rather prim and proper, but they weren't. They just loved adventures. They were as pleased as anything if they could fall out of the window or into the coal bucket. Once, Plain fell into the dustbin and nearly got carted away with the rubbish. She was rescued only just in time and had to be washed and set inside the nursery fender to dry. But she was so pleased with herself for having such an adventure that Pearl quite wished she had managed to fall into. One day, Pearl and Plain were sitting on the nursery windowsill with their shiny black heads leaning against the glass, looking out into the garden. Suddenly, Plain said, "Pearl, we're getting stuffy. We need an adventure. Do you know what we'll do?" "Ooh, what, Plain?" said Pearl. "We'll go out there in the wild and we'll stay out all by ourselves all night." Pearl knocked her wooden arms excitedly together. "We will, Plain," she said, "all by ourselves like real adventurers, and not come back until the morning." "Do we take luggage?" "Yes," said Plain, "tied in bundles in our shawls. That's proper for adventurers. Come on now, let's pack up." So they dropped off the windowsill and ran on their stiff-jointed legs to the nursery cupboard. Plain tossed things about to right and left until she found two crumpled squares of spotted and plaid stuff, which she dragged from under a box of bricks and spread on the floor. Then Pearl solemnly got out a ball, a little box of beads, a clockwork mouse, and put them in her shawl. "You don't want things like that in the wild," Plain scoffed. "You want useful things. Look, I'll show you." So she rummaged about and brought out two dolls' house cups and plates, a saucepan and a tiny scent bottle to carry water in, she explained, a pink Christmas candle and a rather dusty crust of bread. All useful things, you see, Pearl, said Plain. Yes, Plain, said Pearl, and she added an elastic band and a piece of string to show that she understood. But all the same, while Plain wasn't looking, Pearl slipped her clockwork mouse. So there. With their bundles on their backs, the two adventurers climbed down mountains of stairs out into the garden. My, what a place, said Pearl. Yes, said Plain, and there are wild animals here, black and striped with long tails and claws that yowl in the night. Ooh, shivered Pearl, but we aren't afraid of them, are we, Plain? Not we. If they come too close, we say boo and shoo like that and send them off into a hurry. Now, if I had grandchildren or little children, I'd be getting them to now say boo and shoo. So if you've got any little ones, do you want to practice saying boo and shoo, what you'd say if you were Pearl and Plain? Anyway, the wild was very beautiful with it's a sort of flower. I'll put it up on the screen. I'm not very good at pronouncing flowers, which you've discovered if you watch my channel. And pinks blooming in great clumps beside the path, scenting all the air. Pearl stopped to bury her nose in them. Come on, said Plain. Don't waste time. We've got hundreds of miles to travel before the night. I was just sucking the honey out, said Pearl. I'm getting hungry. So Plain stopped to suck honey too, and just at that moment there came from away up above a great big growly voice. Now then, you, what are you doing on my tidy path? It said. You'd better clear out, or I might sweep you up by mistake and throw you out in the rubbish heap. It was the great big gardener, with a great big broom in his hands. He didn't look quite like the wild animals Plain had been talking about, but Pearl got all ready to say boo and shoo when Plain did, but Plain didn't. She only gave a jump and went ooh in a little tiny voice, and they picked up their bundles and clattered off down the path in a hurry. Why didn't we say boo to him? Asked Pearl when they had got safely away. Oh, you never do that to gardeners, said Plain. Only to wild animals that yowl into the night. Don't gardeners yowl into the night, Plain? Of course they don't, Pearl. How do you know, Plain? Plain couldn't think of anything to say, but don't be silly, Pearl. So she said it. And then they journeyed on in silence for several miles until they had crossed the lawn, in fact. Presently the wild grew more wild. There was a rockery to climb and a high box hedge to creep through. Then they came to a place where there was a big mound where a bonfire had been, and a big hole full of garden rubbish, cabbage leaves and potato peelings and eggshells, and near it a soft green hill of fine grass cuttings, newly emptied from the lawnmower. This is a nice place, Pearl, said Plain, looking around. We could burrow into the grass cuttings to sleep and wash in the bird bath there in the morning. Yes, said Pearl, running to the rubbish pit. And look, little green apples and cabbage leaves and some teeny weeny potatoes. There's lots of doll food here, Plain, and I'm so hungry. So they got out the doll's house saucepan, filled it with water from the bird bath. Then they put a tiny potato in and a piece of cabbage stalk and bits of eggshell for flavouring, and set the stew on top of the old bonfire to cook, while they spread a shawl for a tablecloth and set cups and plates on it. They picked up the flower seeds, that's that tricky word I can't say, seeds, to mix with little green apples for a tasty dessert. The stew soon cooked and smelled very delicious. The dolls were just sniffing it hungrily, Am I saying that right? Wondering if it were done, when suddenly there came a rustling in the bushes behind them. Pearl and Plain jumped so their little wooden heads knocked together. A large striped animal with a long tail and whiskers stared at them with yellow eyes. Meow, it said alarmingly. Ooh, whispered Pearl, it's a wild animal. What do we do now? Boo, said Plain faintly. I should say that again. Boo, said Plain faintly, waving one arm. The wild animal only stared, swaying the tip of its tail to and fro. Shoo, said Plain, even more faintly and not waving. But the animal only began to step daintily over the eggshells and leaves in the rubbish pit towards them to see what was going on. Pearl had a sudden idea. Quickly she got the clockwork mouse from her bundle, wound it up and set it as a terrifying wild animal. The mouse whirled all over the ground a little way and then fell on its side, still whirring. But the cat leapt back and was away behind the bushes in a flash. Ha ha, said Plain, strutting up and down, waving her arms. We know how to deal with those wild animals. They can't scare us. Where did you get that clockwork mouse, Pearl? I brought it with me from the toy cupboard, said Pearl firmly, putting it away again. I thought it might come in useful. Well, said Plain, well, let's have supper now. The stew's cooked. So they gobbled up their supper till there wasn't a bit left, and they set to work to make a house in the grass heap. A cardboard lid box from the rubbish pit, propped up with twigs, made the roof. Grass was piled up over it, and the grass floor scooped out under it like a cosy nest. Then Pearl and Plain, wrapped in their shawls, oh, they have shawls, curled up and pulled the grass up over the entrance, and there they lay snug as it could be, with their crockery and pots safely buried inside. Then, and the water bottle, the crust, and the pink Christmas candle handy in the case of need. And nobody, not even the gardener, could have possibly guessed that two little wooden dolls were inside the grass heap. They slept all night, sweetly as wooden dolls can sleep, and even though it rained a little in the night, they were quite dry when they came home to the nursery after breakfast the next morning. That was a proper adventure. So that was up to page 12. So there's still quite a bit of this book left, look. So I hope you enjoyed that first one. Now, I have only read the first two stories. So obviously I've read the first one twice now. And I read it a little while ago when I first got the book. And I think I've read The Adventure in the Attic. Yes, oh gosh, it's rather funny. So actually, if I think this would be okay to read this on YouTube. If you're interested in the future, me reading the next story, The Adventure in the Attic, which, yeah, I can remember some funny bits in that now. So, yeah, I'll read that to you. So, anyway, I'm going to pack up now. I hope you've really enjoyed seeing my wooden dolls. Now, if you're interested in wooden dolls, I recommend, hashtagging, maybe on Instagram or something, or even Facebook, but maybe I prefer Instagram for that kind of thing. Hashtag wooden dolls. And see what you might find. Now, you might come across some of the people that I found on there, but there are other kind of wooden dolls. But I just wanted to introduce you to my wooden dolls. So thank you so much for joining this video, and I'll see you in my next video, which is going to be all the things. They're all craft items and storage and things for my lunar lapping and things. Yeah, so I'll see you in my next video. Bye.